Man, and I did it again. One of these days, I am going to get the hang of this. How long have I been doing this now? Listen, technology is just hilarious, right? So let's do that again. Welcome to Journey to SEA 2025. And this is Shelley Edwards Barron, your host, talking to you about reports, narratives, and comprehension. And today's episode is a little bit special because I'm going to be wrapping up for the term. And what we'll be doing in addition to talking about the topics that we are talking about, I'm going to be sharing some information on what you can do over the vacation to make the most of it. Now, this vacation, I think, is the longest that we've had since I can remember. Normally we get 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This time we're getting just a little over 4 weeks because many schools are closing off pretty early this week. And so we're resuming in January on the 6th, which gives us today's the 3rd, right? So pretty much a month. And so a lot could happen in a month. You don't want to just drop off and, focus on the vacation and students forget what they need to remember. You really want them to, come into January feeling confident and not, oh my, what do I have to figure out now? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So let's see what is on the agenda. So here we go. The agenda has we're looking at natural disaster reports, even though I do not suspect one will come, even if we get reports again. But we do need to take a quick look at it because I've seen it in practice tests. And so, just so that students could have an idea of what they may be facing and how to respond to them, we're going to take a look at that. And then we'll talk about rewriting stories because remember, again, we're heading into the 4 week vacation and we want to make sure students have a plan going into their practice. And then we're continuing with comprehension practice. We're looking at focusing practice, how to figure out what to work on and what kind of practice is absolutely needed. So let's see. As always, before we get into everything, I'm going to talk a little bit about reminders this week. And for the past few weeks, I've been having a few challenges in terms of lots of stuff been happening behind the scenes. So for me, um, I'm especially focused on like point number two when life happens. But in dealing with students, I heard over and over again about simple mistakes. And you know how I feel about simple mistakes. What they actually could be. It's never really a simple issue. There's always something behind them. It's not about students being careless, it's not about students being lazy. There are challenges behind them. And so, in chatting with students about this thing called simple mistakes, what I realized is that for many of them, it's about the anxiety of the exam. And so, while they're practicing at home, without any time and, they're really just focusing on topics, everything is fine. But put them in an exam situation like an end of term or a practice test, and just the thought of, okay, this is SEA and SEA is coming up, many students are overly anxious. They all want to do well, but how do they do that? And they might see their marks aren't moving, and they're really kind of struggling emotionally and mentally preparing for the exam. And so one of the things that causes these what we call simple mistakes, like especially with spelling, when students are rushing and they're so focused on, let's say for the narratives, they're focused on the descriptions and they're focused on the plot and all the major things, and they're stressed about getting it right. they can make mistakes that we consider simple, silly, stupid mistakes. And when they're focused on the report and the content, and they're worried about the vocabulary that they have to use, again, the grammar and the spelling can be um, impaired when we have situations like that. So the best option is for students to be calm during the exam, calm going into the exam, calm during the exam, or at least be able to manage their anxiety to the point where they can understand and, breathe and do their best. We really want them to do their best. And sometimes anxiety can be so much that it minimizes that. And so, what I taught my students, and I've spoken about this over and over, I'm looking for the document to share the screen and to show you. Oh, I think it's on the other side. So let me stop sharing this and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now, if you haven't heard about it yet, this is called it's a grounding technique, and it helps anyone with anxiety be able to sort of pause the anxiety to think a little bit better. And so I had my students do this during our end of session discussions. And so we did this, and then we made a list of the challenges that they had. We looked at solutions, and then I gave them guidance on what they would need to practice over the vacation period. And so, but we started with this so that they were calm enough and they weren't stressed going into the discussion, so they were able to complete the discussion quite beautifully, actually. Um, and so, the way I do this is that I incorporate some deep breathing into it. So you start with deep breathing and you end with deep breathing. And deep breathing means inhaling through your nose as deeply as possible and then exhaling through your mouth as deeply as possible. And then you would go back to regular breathing. So breathe in and you breathe out. So you're trying to, like, fill your lungs with the air. And then, so after the deep breathing, five things you can see. And the trick with doing this grounding activity, and I know I've shared it before, but I'm going to repeat it for those who need a reminder and for those who haven't heard it before. The trick with doing this is not just to think it, but to name things and do the physical action of touching things when you can. And so the five things you can see, you don't want to just look at them around, you want to name them. And depending on where you are, you might not be able to name them out loud. So you name them in your mind, but you do need to name them. And just that simple act of naming them focuses your attention away from the anxiety toward something that's a little bit more tangible. Remember, anxiety is a lot about emotions and thinking and so on. So, this whole grounding exercise is about refocusing the thinking and the feelings. All right. And so, as I'm looking around, I can see my cell phone, glue stick, scissors, computer mouse, and the camera. And so what I would do is to name them in my mind, not just look and see them, but actually name them in my mind. Cell phone, glue stick, scissors, computer mouse, camera. And then I would move on, four things that I can touch. And the four things that I can touch, I want to actually touch them, right? And so actually touching them means, well, okay, I have my desk, the handle of my chair, and in a case where you're in a limited situation, students would be doing the exam. They can touch the papers, they can touch their pencils, erasers, they can even touch themselves, just pat their own hair. So you'd have enough things to touch, and you can do this quickly, and the whole activity takes like about 30 seconds or less. So this isn't something that's going to be intrusive and taking up valuable writing time, but it is going to help calm racing heartbeats, calm racing thoughts, relax the negativity and the emotions where the students might be having, I can't do this, this is overwhelming, this is too much. It's going to help with calming all of that and help the student really approach the activity they're doing with a lot more intention and direction, and they actually physically feel better. And so for anxiety, I do this all the time. And for, the types of anxiety that you get that would crop up during exams and so on, it's an awesome thing to do as well. And so, three things you can hear. If there isn't a lot of sound in the environment, then what you remember, again, name them. Two things you can smell, name them. If there aren't a lot of smells in the environment, name two things that you can smell. Like cookies baking, bread baking, cologne, perfume, flowers, garbage. Doesn't always have to be pleasant, whatever comes to your mind. And then one thing you can taste, again, name it. And once that is finished, the next activity is deep breathing in and exhale. And the first couple of times the student does it, it might take a bit, but I tell you, it's like 30 seconds or less. You can be done in 20 seconds. So less than a minute, and what it does is to refocus, help their thoughts regroup, feelings calm, and sets the stage for doing their best in the exam. And so, for students who are struggling with creative writing and comprehension, this is something that they should do at the beginning of this section. So, when they're going to do the creative writing, do this before they start. When they're going to do the comprehension, do this before they start. And if while they're doing the comprehension or the creative writing, the anxiety starts to come up, pause for 20 seconds and do the activity. It's really going to help for that regrouping and redirection. So it's definitely something that you'd want to share with students so that they can really manage themselves and their anxiety and so on going into the challenging parts of the exams. So, all right, so let's get back to, and that's just dealing with the simple mistakes section here, right? This bit, because a lot of it is caused by anxiety, and we could really minimize anxiety by allowing ourselves to regroup and ground in tangible things. That's why it's important to actually physically touch the things that you're thinking about for touch. And so the second one, when life happens, find gratitude, go slower, and love yourself. Um, it's something that I share with my students as well, but it's this one is more so directed to parents and guardians and teachers coming down to this time of the year, in addition to all the things that we have to do with the schoolwork and the writing and the grammar, punctuation, math, everything. It's Christmas time, and there's a lot happening in terms of activities and different things. And I saw, for those of you who know Miss Giselle from SEA Peacefield Approach, I saw that she posted, she's not doing Christmas this year. Well, to be honest, I never really do Christmas because I prefer to put my energies elsewhere. But there's always food. So, the tree and all those things, as the kids grew up, I just, we don't really celebrate like that. But there's always food, always room for food and snacks, right? But sometimes things happen that prevent you from doing the things that you would like to do or that you planned to do. Plans change. That's just part of life. But it's helpful when we can, again, pull ourselves out of the negativity and the distress as best as possible by finding things to be grateful for, going a little bit slower than we might have wanted to, but still moving forward and making progress, and then loving ourselves through the entire process. And so finding gratitude, I have um a gratitude planner that I use, list of gratitudes that I make, and I do this every day because stuff happens. And in order to really manage the anxiety and the stress and all those things, gratitude is like one of those magic bullets. Excuse me, I say magic bullet because it's not instant, but it works fairly quickly, and once done consistently, it is like a pill for everything. Stuff isn't going well at work and you don't know what to do. Pause and remind yourself about what it is you have to be grateful for. And then you're able to think and process things differently and put things into perspective. And then you're able to make the decisions that are best for the situation. Schoolwork, same thing. Working with students and children, same thing. Pause and remind yourself what you're grateful for in those situations, and then deep breath in and out, and then you'd be in a much better position to make good decisions for all concerned, right? And then finally, know when to take a break. This is something that I struggled with, and I think to a large extent, still, when I get into a project, I really do get fixated on the project. And so that's one of the reasons why, for some of the sessions, I start a bit late because, and I give myself that grace with the ish at the end of the 11, so it's 11 a.m. ish, because sometimes I come to the computer and I'm like, I got time. And I sit with, like the worksheets that I'm preparing and so on. And now I'm planning for the workshops. So I kind of get fixated. So I do need to remind myself when it's time to take a break. And so that's why, even though I might pop in next week Tuesday, I'll let you know if I'm going to pop in next week Tuesday. Um, but I have to schedule a break, and so this vacation I'm doing I'm not really going to be doing the classes for kids. I had planned to do report writing and narrative writing courses, but I've decided not to do those. Instead, I'm going to focus on the programs for instructors, which I could share with you. This is the first one. I really want to share those with you, what it is we're covering, and I'm actually going to be listing the materials that you'd be getting. So I'm giving myself a break so that I could think more about the workshops, actually get a rest, so that come January, because things are going to change in January. I'm going to be restarting blogs, launching a couple other things. I'm going to be opening up a subscription group for parents and teachers where you would get ongoing support on a weekly basis, in addition to this, like actual practical hands on stuff with additional worksheets. So many things are happening behind the scenes. And so I need to take a break. And it's something that I believe is important for all of us to know when we need to pause and take a break. And so, because we have like 4 weeks to manage this vacation, we have enough time to do some stuff and still take a break. So, during the 2 weeks that we can do some stuff before Christmas, this is what I'm offering. Right. So the first session is next week, Monday, actually, and we're going in the evening to accommodate after work and so on, get everything settled. So December 9 and 10, I'll be looking at giving feedback. Now, I'm sure you've heard me say this before. Feedback is really what makes improvement in writing for students. They need to get feedback that they can act on. Now, how do you do that? So for this one, I'll be looking at both reports and narratives. So we have 2 sessions. And we'd be focusing on how to actively give feedback for reports and narratives that you can do quickly. And I'm thinking both teachers and parents here. So for parents, you don't want to have to struggle with, okay, you don't you haven't been trained in creative writing. Many teachers have not been either. There's an outline, we know what to do, but there isn't like a course that says how to teach other than what I myself do and other practitioners might offer. And so if you haven't taken any of those, or you want like specific guidelines exactly on what to look for and how to do it quickly, creating checklists, then this course is definitely for you. So you'll be getting this 12 strategies for effective writing feedback. That's a document that I created. It's a PDF document. You'd get that along with a couple links and resources in it. Report writing feedback form, narrative writing feedback form, so that you could do a quick review and be able to help students effectively. And then we're going to look at sentence structure to improve writing. A lot of the time, students have the ideas, they know what they want to write, but their sentences don't quite work to express the ideas as they should. And I've seen quite a lot where students begin sentences the same way. And in many cases, they begin with the same words. And in other cases, they begin with the same structure. So it's always subject, verb, object, you know. So he did this, she saw that. Even when the subject is a compound subject like um George and Henry, it's still subject, verb, object, subject, verb, predicate. And so we want to add some variety to that, because actually one of the things they're being graded on is variety of sentence structure. And so for this one, I'm going to be focusing mainly on um, the narrative writing, so that especially with the sentence starters and the story transitions. Joining sentences works with reports as well, because we're going to look at conjunctions. We have different types of conjunctions. And notice these are worksheets. So you are actually going to be getting worksheets that you can use with your child or with your students after this program. So you want to get your child or your students to start sentences differently. I have a couple worksheets there for that. Um, then we're going to look at descriptive writing. So this is focused on narratives. So we have the descriptive writing, and we're looking at character description. Um, this descriptive writing worksheets include a little bit of character description, but it focuses mainly on setting. And then this description in action, which is a marvelous, marvelous strategy for incorporating description in writing. So if you've heard me talk about it during the times when you've been following the lives, now is the time to find out exactly how to get it done with worksheets that you could use. And then we'd be wrapping it up with making stories exciting. So no more boring stories. I'm going to show you how to get your child and your students writing exciting stories. It's not just about conflict, it's also about emotions. And I'll show you step by step how to get it done. And you have worksheets. So we're going to look at the beginnings, we'll look at increasing tensions, and we'll look at exploring emotions to really get this done. So if you've been thinking, man, I wish my child could write some exciting stories. I see other people writing all these wonderful stories, other students, and my child is just, the ideas are there, but then you need this course. And I mean, you can't beat 375 with all of these materials. So yeah, I'm in a generous mood this vacation period. This is the only time it's going to be priced like this, because once I um get the feedback and I make any adjustments and I formalize it as a course, the cost is going to increase just a little bit, not a lot, because it's still going to be manageable. Um, is going to be increased a little bit. Plus. Ooh, I don't have it here. I have a few bonus stuff. So if you register for like 3 classes, you get a little bonus. And if you register for all four, you get a little bonus. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. So now let me tell you what you would be working on with the students um, during the vacation, what the students should be doing, and then I'll come back to tell you what I have for you. So let's get into the report writing. So we're going to take a quick look at natural disaster reports. And of course, if you have the 5 reports challenge, you'll have a copy. There's an entire booklet on natural disaster reports. But let me just clue you in on the things that you need to remember for those, right? So the first thing is that these types of reports are like a mix between events and activities. So stuff is happening. Usually you'd have people doing things in preparation for the natural disaster or clean up after a natural disaster and so on. And so it's like a mix. So it's an event, something happened, and it's an activity because we have to like deal with this thing that's happening or happened or will be happening, depending on what type of report it is. And so the thing that I don't generally focus on a lot of natural disaster reports. In fact, I don't quite teach it specifically in my classes. I share ideas with the students because I've seen natural disaster reports come up in practice tests and those um, the mock exams and so on. But I haven't seen anything related to natural disasters in the 3 times reports were tested. So we're looking at generally students are tested on reports that relate to the classroom or anything to do with school, field trips, those kinds of things, where there's a teacher, there are students involved. If you go back to the past papers, so 2019, 2024, I know for sure. I think it's 2021 is the other time. But you would see the kinds of reports that students are really asked to write. But it doesn't hurt giving them some information because once they understand events and activities, they can really answer a natural disaster report. The only thing that you need to pay attention to is the vocabulary where we have earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, and landslides. They are particularly, well, there are some unique words and so that we would want to use to demonstrate understanding for each of these. And so these things are covered in social studies. So it's not as if it's going to be completely new to the student, but they might need to just revise their vocabulary a little bit. So the sentence structure would apply, the transitions would apply as always, the format 5 paragraph structure applies. It's just really the vocabulary and expressions that you would use in natural disasters that you might want to pay attention to. And so you want to look at what would happen before, what happened during and after in terms of whatever the context is you're responding to in the prompt. And then you want to review um, how you would do lessons learned and vocabulary. You want to pay attention to that because depending on the report, you might be asked, okay, what was the outcome and those kinds of things. And then you want to practice a natural disaster report. So you might want to get your hands on a prompt. There are several prompts, I think, in SEA Peaceful Approach with natural disasters. But you want to think of, okay, in preparation for a flood, after a landslide, reporting to the member of parliament in your area, or, um, there's a hurricane coming and go through the preparation process after the hurricane. You can talk about that earthquake, after an earthquake, what is done, what was done. It can even be not a direct natural disaster report. Could actually be an event where someone came to the school to present about natural disasters. We're in hurricane season right now. And so, someone from the Office of Disaster Preparedness could be going around to schools, making sure schools are prepared and lecturing to the students so the students are aware of what to do if there's an earthquake, um, and if there is a hurricane or anything like that. So it could come in that form as well. So pay attention to, the details, and get the student practicing the details and get your hands on a prompt and see how that goes. Of course, if you have a copy of the 5 reports challenge, I think, let me see, I don't remember what booklet that is off the top of my head, but I could tell you in quick timing. Um, it is booklet number 9, because I added it in after I did the rest of it. So it's booklet number 9, has information on natural disasters, paragraph by paragraph, what you could put in each, and a sample report for a natural disaster report. Um, with these, I don't believe I did natural disasters in the report planning. I'd have to double check. I could probably add a few and see how that goes. But like I said, it's an event activity. So I focused on the 5 of them actually. So 5 each. Yeah. So I didn't include natural disasters in this one. So your best bet is to get, if you're interested in understanding natural disaster reports a little bit more, the 5 reports challenge is the better one to get. Of course, you can get this just to practice the others, but if you're interested in natural disasters, then for sure get the 5 reports challenge. All right. Moving on to narratives. At this point, students have covered everything they need to know. They've done all the different skills, they've covered all the different issues with revising and editing and that type of thing. So now you want them, before they go ahead speeding, you want them to go back a little bit. And what we're working on this week is rewriting previous stories. And so it's always great to review what was previously done so you can see how far students have come. And I do this all the time with my students, especially when they share um, stories that they've written before and they score like maybe 12 or 14. We discuss what would make it better, and then I ask them to rewrite it, including the changes. So not only can they check to see how to include the changes, because then, of course, they come back to me and we discuss it and I show them, what they did well. We put a big check mark next to that. What they could still possibly improve on, I show them how to do it. And so, um, when it comes to the like upgrading skills, you do need to get students practicing. And the best thing to do is to gather some of their stories. I would say like about 5, and review what they currently know about, what they've learned since writing those stories, and then rewrite some of them. And so for this week, you want to revise like plot, description, beginning and the end of stories. You want to rewrite the story from scratch. So you're not taking like how we did previously, where we kind of analyze the story and then rewrite it. We're not doing that this time around. You're just gathering the previously written ones for the record, and then you're presenting the prompt. So you're presenting the student with the prompt that they worked on before, and you're having them doing it from scratch. So they're plotting, they're doing the quick plot, they're doing the entire story with new ideas, considering what they have learned. And then you want to compare the two, the original one and the revised version, to see what changes were made, how they approached it differently, and then you're looking at how if there's anything else that could possibly still be added. Because you want the students to see that they have grown as writers. they have grown in terms of their vocabulary and their expressions, or perchance they rushed it down, or they just reverted to what they originally knew and the two are the same, then you can recommend to them, hey, I haven't seen much growth or improvement in terms of your changes. Tell me what that's like. Discuss it with them, and then you do it again because you want to see them implementing what they have learned, right? And of course, this is one of those rinse and repeat over the vacation period. Definitely something you want to do. And if it is, I think I don't have it up. Let me just check on this. Yeah. I am going to be available for feedback, right? So let me just add that in because I didn't yeah, I'm going to remind you of that because this vacation, since I'm not doing the courses so much so for students, I'm going to be giving detailed feedback. I'd also be available for the one-off discussion and feedback sessions, right? So we're going to be doing detailed written feedback, the one-off sessions. This is going to be, of course, done individually, and it's not a course where I'm going to be going through um, things with students. It's just me revising their work. And so I'm going to share screen in a bit. All right, so let's go back so you can see what I'm talking about. Right, so if you decide to do the um, revision and the rewriting and you want to get it professionally, um, what do we call that? Assessed. I'm available to do that. But of course, um, and I'll be so 150 for 150, I'll be looking at two essays. So I would recommend like a one report and one narrative. You get detailed written feedback for that. If you want like additional discussion, I for an additional $50 you can get I'll do like a 30 to 45-minute session with the child explaining the feedback and what they can do differently. So now the booking form I took it down. So I'm going to put it back up after this session for the booking form for the you'd look for that. So WhatsApp me if you're interested in something like this and I'd be able to, schedule you in for a session. But of course, if you want to learn how to do it yourself and not have to worry about getting another opinion, which is, I mean, it's a good idea, but for you to be able to do it yourself and understand how to get it done, then we have the feedback program, we have the sentence structure program workshops, the descriptive writing workshops, and the no more boring stories workshops. And so it's 375 per course. um, three courses. If you register for three courses, you get a 10% discount. If you register for all four, you get a 10% discount plus a 30 minutes. Now, that 30 minutes you can use for yourself. If you're a teacher and you want to have me sit with you and go through things in terms of challenges in your classroom, how to deal with creative writing, anything writing related, comprehension as well, I'll throw that in. Um, and teaching related, you can ask. If you're a parent and you prefer to use that 30 minutes for me to meet with your child, it's totally up to you. If you register for all four of the courses, you get all the information plus the worksheets plus that 30 minutes of my time. And so to register, you just go to wordcoach.com courses, and you'd see the um, more details of each program. You can register for all four, get the 10% discount and the 30 minutes. So, like I said, yes, I'm quite generous this Christmas because I really think that students who get support from parents generally do better. And so I want to really equip the parents to be able to guide and support students at home. Students who get the right kind of feedback and support from their teachers do really well also. So I also want to support teachers to make sure that they aren't as some teachers don't like creative writing. They don't like teaching it because they think, okay, I'm not a great writer either. I don't know how to teach this thing. I could answer a lot of your questions and solve many of the challenges that you have. So come to the sessions, ask me your questions, register for all four, get to pick my brain for 30 minutes in addition to what you got during the program. And so let me know, register. That's just, let me just tell you. These courses, brand new worksheets. So if you've done programs with me before, these are brand new courses, brand new worksheets because I created them this year. So they weren't worksheets that I have used before. So these are definitely worth doing, even if you've done programs with me before. All right. So, okay, back to the comprehension, focused practice with the comprehension. Um, you really want to identify areas of continued challenge because at this point with the comprehension, students have covered all the different types of texts, right? So they've done the graphics, they've done fiction, nonfiction, poetry. They would have done different types of questions. Excuse me, we would have looked at context clues, how to recognize the question, what is asking you, how to answer it, how to phrase the answers. We even looked at keywords, how to find answers using keywords, how to create answers like written answers using keywords, how to phrase them. So they've covered everything that they would need. If you've missed any of those sessions, definitely go back into the recordings. You can check on YouTube, you can check on my website for the recorded sessions. Go back to those if you've missed any of them before you move forward. Now, we have, like I said, at least 2 weeks before the Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and then you'd have like a few days after that as well. Pretty much like another week with New Year's in between. But the idea is we have 4 weeks here to work with. So whatever challenges your child is having, there's some time during this vacation where you can zero in on these challenges and do some revision and practice. So you want to identify because some students have no issues with the literal questions. Um, Even some of the evaluation questions, they have no problems with them. But then they can't answer questions that deal with characters. So maybe they need to revise how to do that. Some students have challenges with the vocabulary, context clues, and learning off some vocabulary. Some students have different challenges in different areas. They may be good with the passage and the graphic, but the poems give them a little extra challenge. So those are the things that you want to focus on during the vacation. Identify where the challenges are and focus on how questions are answered. because I realized that many students they know where to find the answer, but putting it into words that make sense in the little two lines, sometimes they might need to add a third line and write it out properly. Adding a line to complete your answer, there's no issue in that at all, as long as you're comfortable with the way the answer is presented and it responds effectively to the question that was asked. And so we have these things to consider, and that's what we want to do. Use the vacation to fill the gap and develop the skills in the areas that have the most challenge. Because when it comes January, that's going to be a point where things are going to heat up. So for all the classes that, you might be thinking, the teacher isn't doing as much as I would like. I want the teacher to be doing more. Guess what? Is going to happen in January. If students have not already been doing practice tests, they will begin in January. If they've already been doing practice tests, come January, they're going to be starting mock exams. And so it's going to be a really fast pace between January and the exam. And so you really want to support your child or your students during the break. So they get yourself ready as a parent and a teacher, do the workshops that I'm offering, and for the students, keep them active during the time by focusing on areas of challenge so that when come January, they've been practiced, they've been doing the grounding activities, they calm, they're not stressed, and they will be ready. So, if you haven't already gotten a copy of these, I don't know what you're waiting for. It's time to get it. The past papers with answers and these as well. So, yes, I know I keep promising some additional ones. But like I said, life has been happening. And I haven't been really getting the time that I need to, but my classes are closing off this week, and I'm not doing too much during the 1 month. So I'm going to be really focused on churning out these practice papers and practice activities. Um, and so, yeah, get the workshops for yourself and get the practice, because the workshops would be for you and your child or students, because you're getting advice and recommendations from me, plus you're getting the worksheets that you could use. So I'm going to show you how to use the worksheets to get the most benefit of it and give you all the background information that you need to get the most out of the worksheets. All right, so like I said, yeah, get the worksheets for you, get the worksheets for your students or your child, get the workshops for you, register for all four so that you could get that one on one session with me that you can ask me anything and I'll guide you. Even if it's like for a teacher, creating a lesson plan from January to March for the creative writing, you have me for 30 minutes. And you guys know my style. You know we're going to go over the 30 minutes a little bit. I can't promise a whole hour, but you're definitely going to get me for a minimum of 30 minutes. All right? And so this definitely, and when I was reviewing them, I looked at I'm like, I put that at 375, boy, because the worksheets that you're getting, these are like the worksheets that I created to actually put up on my website for sale, but I haven't put them up yet. So I'm actually just gifting them to you when you check it out. So you get 4 hours of instruction plus 3 worksheets each session. And that that's like, by the time you remove the cost of the worksheets, you'd be probably, it's like so worth it to do all of them. I think this is like the best value that I've done so far, because I've had it on my mind. How can I help teachers? How can I help parents? Because it's it really bothers me. I can only teach so many students, but if I help more people, and students get the support from their parents, because I've had parents tell me over and over, I'm not a great writing teacher, I don't know. But here's what, come to the workshops and you'd find out, because I can guarantee you the support that you are giving your child is going to be invaluable. And they learn that you love them and you care about them. It's just like win 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 situation by supporting. And so that's my recommendation. So for the vacation time, we have some weeks to work with. We have at least 2 weeks that you can work with. You know what you're working on with the students, and now you know what you are working on for you, so that you're all prepped and ready for January. And um that covers, I think, all that's necessary. So just a quick recap about what we did today. We looked at natural disaster reports. If you have the 5 reports challenge, it's booklet number 9. You can go through booklet number 9. We looked at rewriting stories. What you're doing is gathering previously written stories. You yourself would go through it and say, well, okay, yeah, this need more description. This need more, I don't understand this plot. Whatever it is that's missing, you make a list and then you go through the skills with the student. I'm sure whatever it is that the student is having trouble with, you can check back in the archive of these videos, Journey to SEA 2025, and find a session that I did covering some advice on how to deal with it. And then you want to have them rewrite the stories with the prompt, not actually going through and making changes. We want them to have a fresh look at the same prompt and see how they work with it now that they've learned all of these things. And then finally, with the focused comprehension, you want to review past comprehension activities, see what areas are giving the most trouble, and then focus on those. Have some discussions, do some reading, do some practice, discuss some more. And we have a whole 2 weeks to do that. And then, of course, finally, you're going to go to my website, click on courses, and register for the courses so you can get what you need as well. So thank you so much. Let me stop sharing now. We're at the end of everything. And so I do believe, even though today is like technically the last session for the term because schools are closing this week, I am likely going to be on next week, Tuesday, just to let you know how things are going with the workshops, because there would be still some time to register for those who might have missed it. And I'll also be doing a kind of overall view of here's what you can get. Now, of course, by that time, all the worksheets that would be available during the workshops would be up on my website. And if it is you don't want to do the workshops, but you want the worksheets, I'll be sharing all about that next week as well. So, thank you so much for those of you who are so flexible and awesome that even when I start a little bit late, that you still, check in. I appreciate that. For those of you who are looking at the recording, I do sincerely appreciate your time. And I hope that the sessions have been most useful this term. If there's something that I missed or that you want to get more information on, check the workshops. You might see, okay, maybe I need more on this or more on that, or just reach out to me. Maybe I have a set of worksheets already created that you can benefit from. Okay. And so, with that, I want to wish you all, well, I would say Merry Christmas just in case you don't take in next week, because I'm going to say Merry Christmas again next week. And I'm not going to say Happy New Year because I'll be seeing you just before the new year, after the break. So, I'm taking, me personally, 3 weeks. It might end up to be one when I look at it, but we'd see. We'd see how things go. All right. And so I think that's it. We're done. Have a wonderful rest of today, guys, and I'll possibly see you next week, most likely. But I look out for seeing you during the workshops. Okay. Bye bye.